If you are the C4 Corvette owner, you may encounter with a problem like this. I'm gonna show you what I mean. This one. Now I'm going to try to resolve this problem. Okay, so here I got the perfect thing for a Corvette, the field service manual or factory service manual or fighting service manual. Sometimes you fight with this car very much, so it's very useful to have one. Those are the troubleshooting hints you can find in the manual. The first point in troubleshooting hints is to check the stop hazard fuse by operating the hazard flasher. Yeah, I did that, it works. Number 2, check the brake fuse by visual inspection, that works too. Check injection 1 fuse and gauges fuse by starting the engine and observing the gauges operate. Yeah, it works too for me. Check fusible link J. If you don't know where the fusible link J is, it's left hand rear of engine compartment at jump start junction block, which means near the battery. Now we got here, check that pump motor relay and solenoid valve relay are firmly seated. Okay, I checked that already. Number 6, check that control module connector is properly mated. I did this too. Number 7 is the check brake fluid level. I already checked this. If an ABS problem exists or the hydraulic pump doesn't operate, check grounds. Yeah, that's a very good point. The grounds on a coupe are just here under this panel. So this is worth a try. This is the number 9. If the anti-lock indicator remains on but the system works okay, check that the control module connector is tightly connected and bent pins are not present or pull-out terminals are not present. And I will just add here as number 10 to check the wheel speed sensor for the damage. So I'll start with number 10 now because I did all of those, and we'll see what's going on in there. Okay, so I took the wheel off and now I'm going to check the anti-lock sensor, and it will be very simple because I'll undo this bolt and this bolt in the bracket to pull him off gently, and then I'll check the condition of the sensor.
Now I'm going to remove the sensor by removing the bolt that is holding the sensor in place, the bracket that is holding the sensor wire in place, and I'm going to check the sensor for any damage or residues on the tip of the sensor. The wheel speed sensor is sensitive on those residues and damage, so we have to be careful of checking. And after that, I'm going to lube the surface of the sensor, which is in contact with knuckle, just to prevent it from seizing. And I'm using the polyurethane bushing grease or silicone grease. Then I'll plug back the wheel, and I'm going to check the rest of the wheels for the damage of the sensors. After checking the rest of the sensors on the car, they seem to be fine and clean and without any damage on the tip. So I decided to get back on the car behind the driver's seat to check the ABS module and their relays.
Okay, so our wheel sensor seems to be okay, so now we're going to do a couple of tests from factory service manual, and we'll start with the module relay test. This is the module relay. It's actually not clipped in here, but it should be. And then we're going to do the solenoid valve resistance test, and then we're going to do the solenoid relay test, which is this one. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is to test the module relay right now in here. So we need to disconnect the module relay connector. So just simply disconnect the module relay. like this. Plug it in here, and now I'll search for the orange black. It's this one. That's it. And the black one goes to the ground. Let's find the nearest ground in the car. And now let's turn the ignition on to the run. Now you can see that this is the battery voltage, which is correct result for this test. And now I'm going to switch the tester to the pink black ground, which is this one in here. So let's check it. Perfect battery voltage. Now I'm going to test the pink black and black one. Pink black is here, and black one is in here. So yeah, battery voltage, perfect. Now let's connect the relay back, and now we have to test with the module relay connected and the ignition on, gray black, which is this one, and black. And it should be again the battery voltage in here. So just check it. Yeah, now you can see we got the battery voltage. So assuming from this the module relay is okay, and you can I tested it before like this. When you turn the ignition off, it clicks. When you turn the ignition on, it clicks again, and you can feel it by if you just put a hand on it when you're turning the ignition on. But now we have 100% sure that it's okay. So the module relay is okay. And now we're going to do the solenoid valve resistance test. Solenoid valve resistance has to be measured by the connector disconnected. So I'm going to disconnect the connector. I already loosened these two bolts. Those are Torx bolts. I remove the connector, sorry, the bracket, and now I'll just remove the connector. We just have to use the bit of force. Ugh! This is really tight. Okay, so now we got it out. Set it aside like this, and now we're going to measure the modulator valve values. We need to set the resistance to 200 ohms scale, like this. There's some kind of rubber in here. You see that? Need to get rid of it. Just okay, she's out. I'll vacuum clean it later. So now I gotta measure between 1 and 4. This is 1, this is 4. The resistance should be from 0.8 to 1.5 ohms. This is 1.3, it's just fine. 1.4, okay. Now I'm going to measure between 3 and 4. So 3 and 4. .4, 1.3, okay. Now between 5 and 4. 1.3, that's fine, that's fine, that's the best results. In the manual it says if the measured values differ more than 0.1 ohms, you have to replace the modulator valve. And if the measured values are correct, return to symptom directory. Okay, so I'm going to I'm returning to the symptom directory. Okay, so now I'll plug back the connector, just temporarily, because another test after this one will require it to remove. And now we're going to do the solenoid relay test. We have to remove this Torx bolt with the bracket firstly. And from what I read, this solenoid relay sometimes tends to be short. Okay, so now we have to disconnect the relay. Oh, that was easy. And we can see that this is the 5-pin relay. So we can provide a test later of this relay. But now we're going to measure the voltage at 20 volt scale at the solenoid relay connector. So it's here with the relay disconnected, with the ignition switch run. So I'm going to run the ignition switch like this, and let's measure between 86 and ground and 87 and ground. The nearest ground I found here is the rear hatch bracket. Now we have to measure it between 86, which is this one, and ground. And it should be a battery voltage in here. Yes, it is. And the second test is to measure the 87 and the ground. So see for it. Okay, that's just fine. So if voltages are correct, it says in here, go to table 3. So table 3 will be another solenoid relay test. Connect back the solenoid relay. It will be good to turn the off, in fact, firstly. And now disconnect again modulator valve harness connector. And now let's measure with the ignition switch once again running, measure between 6 and ground and 10 and ground. Turn the ignition on. Black is in the ground, so test the 6. Battery voltage, okay. Test the 10. Battery voltage, perfect.
After the second test of the solenoid relay, all of the voltages were okay once again, even from the table 1 and from the table 2. So I choose another option. I'm going to test the solenoid relay straight on a bench.
Okay, so I'm going to test bench the relay. The solenoid relay has 5 pins, and the test will be consisting of connecting the plus pole to the 85 and minus pole to the 86, and we should hear the click. Plus pole has to go on 85, which is in here, and 86 is in here. And we see that it doesn't click, so the relay is faulty. We don't have to continue with another test of this relay. I'm going to show you how it should be working. This is the very similar relay. It's the same basically, but a different model. And I'm going to connect the 85 and 86 in here. This is the 85, and I know this relay works. In fact, it just looks so tatty and old, but it works. Perfect. So I have to replace the relay, and I bought via eBay this equivalent with the same number as you have here. We're going to check it on a car if this is our culprit with the ABS or not. So we found out that this original relay, solenoid valve relay, is faulty. I bought this Bosch relay. I'll try it with this one. Where it's made? Where it's made? Oh, she's made in Hungary. That's great. That's the country near us. They make perfect electrical appliances. The original one was made in Germany. So, but it's still Bosch, so it's perfect. Now I'll just plug it back and try to run the ignition. Perfect. You see that? No light. Let's try to fire it up. perfect. So now we saw it. After 3 seconds of firing up the car, the anti-lock light should turn off, and it did. Perfect. Finally clean the IC panel without lights and problems I had. Perfect. Perfect.